When the call first came in, we could tell it was going to be something pretty big because the lady was pretty excited. We got here, and as we come around the corner down the street down here, we couldn't even see how big the actual size of the structure was because it was nothing but a fireball.
How many times have you heard firefighters say, "It's only a house fire"? Hello, I'm Bill Presley with the Enid Fire Department. Every day, firefighters all over the world enter into burning houses to extinguish fires and to protect the public from harm. But as this video will show, the actual contents of a family dwelling may be unknown and could possibly cause harm or death to firefighters. Captain Carl Carroll describes what happened on a December evening response in Enid, Oklahoma.
Basically, the call came in as a structure fire at the intersection of Pine and Lincoln here in town. We responded, one pumper from downtown, a rescue rig, and 2 of our substation pumpers. And when we arrived on the scene, we had what I would just literally term a house of flames. There was fire coming out of every window, out of every eave. You couldn't see much wooden structure.
Dennis Weldon is the lieutenant at Station 5.
We were the backup truck, or the second backup truck on a fire. And when we left our station, we're about 3 miles from that location. As soon as we left our station, we seen flames. We had flames showing from our station, which is quite a ways off.
As per Enid structure fire SOP, 3 engines were dispatched to what turned out to be a small single-family dwelling. The seat of the fire was located in the kitchen area. The initial attack was made from the east and the south with 1 3/4 inch lines.
We rolled in to assist on the initial attack, and then we were the first company to make entry on the building after we got the flames knocked down on it. We really didn't realize what was in the building until we'd already been in there for a short time. And we had an area in the building that wouldn't go out. It kept coming back on us. We'd put water on it and it'd flash back. So I hollered to make sure the utilities were off. And they said we didn't have any utilities on in the building. So at that time we knew that there was something strange going on.
Steve Bartley was one of the first firefighters to enter the house.
We all started kind of regrouped, got to talk a little bit, just briefly. We didn't even actually stop fighting the fire. You start hearing people start screaming, "There's propane bottles, there's propane bottles." And you just get a real sinking feeling that at any time one of those bottles can explode and one small bottle can level a house. So it got real excited there for a second because, oh my gosh, I've been this close to this house and nothing's happened yet. But man, what happens if one of those go? And they finally discovered about 9 propane bottles, 20-gallon size, and then one great big one that just if that great big one would have gone, it would have knocked 2 or 3 houses down.
The intense burning was a result of the release of propane from the large cylinder. The other smaller cylinders were found throughout the house.
Apparently the house was heated and they were using these propane tanks for cooking, which was against our life safety code here in town. But initially we didn't know that, and we just thought we had a lot of fire.
The way that we determined that there were propane bottles in there, besides the part that when we tried to put water on the fire that it kept coming back on us, that gave us a good indication that there was something besides just natural combustibles in the house. We thought it was natural gas. We did, one of our people got a hold of the owner, and he said that, I guess he told him there were 3 or 5 initially, and he was probably afraid to tell us how much propane he did have in the house and give us that. Of course, he should have known that we were going to find it out pretty quick.
He couldn't even give him an exact amount of how many were in there. He gave him a general location. He said, well, there's a couple here, and there's one great big one. He couldn't tell him exactly how many, so when we just kept pulling them out, we weren't sure. You never know when you're going to be done if the owner doesn't even know how many are there.
Fortunately, in our case, the cylinder was venting. What had happened, the kids that lived in the house were roughhousing and knocked this cylinder over. When the cylinder fell, it hit the valve hit a wall and it opened it up. And when it hit the ground, it ignited. Had the fire, if it had not been venting so well, we could have had the cylinder could have exploded, could have ruptured and exploded, and several of our people might have been hurt. The dangers of an enclosed propane tank igniting or exploding is just scary.
This is the kitchen area, and this is the area that we found the large bottle, the 100-pound bottle. The bottle, like I said earlier, was laying on its side, and it was a full bottle. He had just filled it that morning, and it hadn't been turned on yet. It fell over here in the corner and hit the sheetrock, and this is what turned the knob on to open the valve and let the liquid propane out, because it was on its side. When we come in here initially for search, we searched this room real quick, come through the kitchen area. It was smoky enough that we couldn't tell what we were crawling over. We crawled over the 100-pound bottle and went back in here to this little hallway and to the back bedrooms and checked the 2 bedrooms back here.
Initially, we didn't know, and it was not something that you would even suspect a cylinder that large in a residential structure. So the potential for a life loss of a firefighter was great in this case.
That's part of this job. You're going to get into some situations that that you can't be sure about all the time. We'd like to be, and we try to be, but something like that, when somebody has 8 propane bottles inside a home, it's something that's different. And I've run into small propane bottles, but nothing like this in my 23 years of service. First time I've ever seen that much propane inside a house.
Fortunately, the fire was brought under control and none of the propane cylinders ruptured. And even though this incident was not a disaster, it very well could have been. 4 young girls had just ran from the house a few seconds before the propane ignited, and firefighters unknowingly entered an environment that could have killed them in an instant. So, what can you do to better prepare and protect yourself from unknown dangers in a house fire? The first line of defense is prevention.
The best prevention is education. People don't seem to understand, or they don't care to follow the life safety codes that are set up for their own protection. We can't get in and inspect every person's home to make sure that they're doing it properly. But by educating the public, showing them the potential of the disaster that can happen by using propane in the home, even for a temporary measure, can be disastrous.
Probably an indication would be that you know, they're living in the home, and it didn't have a gas meter on it. You know, but the gas meters are usually on initial attack. Gas meters are not right there where you can tell. But that would be, I'd say that would be one thing to look for. If somebody's living in that home and it's in the middle of the winter in Oklahoma, they have to have some sort of heat. And it has to be quite a bit of heat when it gets down to 25 degrees or 20 degrees.
After evaluating the events leading up to this fire and the fire itself, we offer the following suggestions. Continue public education efforts and perhaps expand them if possible. In some communities, local utility companies may be able to notify the fire department when disconnects are made. This can alert firefighters to the fact that unsafe alternative fuels may be present. Enforce the codes wherever possible. Continue, and in some areas, increase firefighter training. Don't assume anything. Size up, size up, size up. And remember, there is no such thing as only a house fire.
Just don't underestimate anything. You may think that this is a normal house dwelling, they've got electric heat or they've got gas heat, but just out of the blue somebody could just be doing something they shouldn't be doing and heating the house with propane inside the house. Just never underestimate anything that's possible.